This is the first time I made the trip by myself. Usually somebody's with me. But I figured I'd brave it.
Every few weeks, Susie Wilson drives the 90 minutes south from Abilene, Texas, to a tiny speck of a place called Trickham, a ghost of a town with a population last registered as 12. There's no post office or street lights. It boasts simply a highway, a church, and this cemetery.
This is Hardy.
This is where her granddaughter Hardiquinn Hill was buried after she died from malnutrition. For the past 2 years, Wilson and others have been trying to move her body closer to her family because of the distance and because of the people who buried her here.
The last name that shows is Anderson. That is not her last name. She was never adopted. She was never anything. Anderson was this family name, which is the family of one of her 2 murderers.
Hardy was, most of the time very happy. She, loved getting her hair done and makeup. I think her, cousin Mariah, she loved spending time with her and doing all that.
Sarah Hill Flesner was married to Hardiquinn's mother and helped raise the girl for years.
If I'd have known it was as bad as it was, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I would have figured out how to get the kids out of the house. Legally or not.
When the two split up, she says Hardy's mother cut her off from the children and started dating a new woman, Jamie Anderson. Jamie Anderson and Hardy's mother, Dawn Hill, are now serving life sentences for the capital murder of Hardiquinn. Susie says everything changed when her daughter met Jamie. She moved Dawn with their kids into a rundown home in Brownwood, Texas. There, Jamie, Dawn, and the kids grew increasingly isolated, and Wilson says her daughter's whole personality changed. She said they stopped allowing her to take the kids for sleepovers, and finally they stopped letting her come by at all. Tim Corley, pictured here next to the remains of the house the family lived in, called DFPS multiple times about bags of feces he was finding at the dumpster near his house, just down the street.
Did CPS do its job?
I don't think they did. I think that girl would be alive if they hadn't done it. Because when I saw, I don't see how anybody could miss it.
They informed him that everything was fine at the house, despite still never entering it. TPR confirmed that investigators for DFPS never entered the home despite multiple calls.
So tell me about why else this might not be an appropriate place for your...
This is where they left her. They left her here several times. But finally, August of 21, she left here and walked that direction to a house down there.
Just a month after Corley reported the family to DFPS, Dawn Hill abandoned Hardy at the Trickham Cemetery in the summer of 2021. According to a police report, it was a little past midnight in the pitch black. Wilson says it wasn't the only time this happened. This time, though, Hardy was scared enough to walk towards the only source of light in the vast, rural Texas darkness.
You can tell there's absolutely no lighting out here, as far as I've ever seen, and I've been here after dark, and there's really nothing to amount to light.
We asked Susie to ride with us to where Hardy was finally found.
And at the time, this road was not cliched like this. It was just like that one back there, just dirt, with everything grown up on it, and night, so animals are out, stuff like that. And from what I understand, I'm not quite sure if it was this house or that house. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Whichever one had their lights on. I can't remember the address. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I know that 2 old ladies lived there.
Right.
After we stop, Vicki Rice comes out of her house and says she's the woman who found Hardy that night and called the police.
We have a night light that lights up a lot of the yard, and she said she saw the night light from the cemetery, that she went to this house first, but they have a lot of dogs, and she was afraid. And she came down, saw the light. We had a light on the front porch like we do every night, and that's why she came to the house. is what she said. She has told us that she's lost, that her mother left her at the cemetery in Trickham. The mother came into the house after we had already called the police. And so we clearly told her, I mean, she's not leaving until they get here. We've already called the sheriff's department and we're not going to allow her to leave because we've already called. She said she had wandered off from them in the cemetery. That's not what the little girl told us. I mean, we never saw any of that night. We saw a very frightened, very young child that was very hungry and dirty. She ate everything that we had. We had made her a sandwich and she ate it and said she was still hungry, and we made her hot dogs and she ate those, and she drank milk, about 3 glasses of milk. But she said she was hungry and we fed her. Yep.
I appreciate what you did for her.
I can't imagine. Wished it would have ended differently.
We all do.
So.
But
But you know
again,
what? She's
thank
at
you.
peace. We know where she is. She's at peace. She went home way too early, but she's at peace. So.
The Coleman County Sheriff's Department ultimately pushed for charges against Dawn Hill for child endangerment. She pled to a lesser charge and was put on probation. DFPS decided not to continue to monitor the family and closed the case a week after it was reported by police.
We are in the process now of trying to move her from the cemetery here,
I knew that.
and
Home.
we're taking her home.
After 2 years of trying, they were finally allowed to move Hardy's remains in the fall of 2024.
You know, it's all a waste, and we look at it that way. This should never, ever have happened in the first place. But we accomplished getting her home.
Thank you for getting her home.
You're welcome.
She'll be happier here.
You know, it's the end of a long trial, so to speak. She is now where she should have been, you know, when this happened. In other words, we don't get any do-overs, unfortunately, but at least she's home. She's home.